How to fix cat scratches on a black leather chair.
Okay, here's another little video for you. We got, very high quality black leather with chrome chair. I mean, the chair is just absolutely beautiful. It's like a work of art. It's gorgeous. But over the years, we have cat scratches. And some of these, we have two chairs. One of the chairs doesn't have very bad cat scratches. We always want to do videos, of course, with were the worst ones. So with this one, what we're going to do is we've already cleaned this chair up with our, of course, our leather cleaner. As you can see here, this is our 22-ounce leather cleaner and our leather cleaning and dusting cloth. You would just basically spray the cleaner onto the cloth and just sort of wipe it down. If it's really dirty, but you can't really see it on black leather, but if it's really dirty, you'd actually want to spray the leather cleaner on here. Let's say this was a white chair or whatever. You want to let it sit till the soil's loosened up, and then you'd want to wipe it away. The other thing too is because there's chrome accents on this chair, you can also use our leather cleaner to clean all these chrome accents and everything on this chair on a daily or weekly basis, because our leather cleaner does not have any oils or waxes in it, which is really nice because oils and waxes, all they do is build up and they attract more and more dirt. So when you use our cleaner, it cleans the surface, it leaves no oils or waxes to build up or to attract more dirt, and of course when you apply our leather dyes, they're going to have the best adhesion possible. But that being said, let's just move over here. What we're going to use is, this chair happens to be what's called Black A. This is a Black A leather dye, okay? A lot of people say, what's the difference between Black A, Black B? Well, Black A is the majority of black leather. If you see this in your car, it's called a graphite or a dark charcoal or a black leather. And what it is it almost looks like a really dark charcoal gray, okay? That's the majority even in automobile interiors, the same thing. So this is Black A. If you go with a Black B color, you really won't really see the difference with a Black B, only in certain lighting. It'll look a little bit darker. But if you're on the fence between, oh, what should I get, Black A or Black B, you may not even know the difference depending on certain lighting conditions. But this particular chair is a Black A, so we're going to refinish it with a Black A. And this is the 4-ounce leather dye, okay? This is the kit that you would get. It comes with a sealer, comes with a one-time use cleaner, comes with the cap for the dye, the sprayer, the applicator sponges, rubber gloves, sandpaper in there. Everything's in this kit. This is called a leather dye repair kit, okay, to repair the dye on the leather. Now, the other thing you need, if you have areas down here where the cat scratches are sort of, you can feel that there's damage to the texture of the leather, or if they're deeper than the thickness of, let's say, your fingernail or something like that, then you would need our filler kit. Okay? This is our leather repair filler kit. It comes with a 1-ounce leather repair filler, a palette knife, comes with full instructions, sandpaper, leather repair cloth. If you have a rip or something like that, you'd use this as a backing. And of course, full instructions. Everything comes in here. So this is if you have deep scratches or voids in the leathers, or a hole in the leather, or a tear, or whatever. You need the filler kit. Okay? That's a separate add-on. So if you want to do both, you would need, of course, the leather dye repair kit in the color of your choice, and of course, the filler kit comes in either small or large, 1 ounce or 2 ounce. So what we're going to do first is, this area was cleaned. We're going to go into our kit. We're going to get our sandpaper. Should be hiding in there somewhere. There it is right there. Okay, so we'll put this away. We'll take out a piece of sandpaper. Okay. This is very fine sandpaper. I'm just going to get on the other side of the camera here. What you want to do is, a lot of the little ticks and scratches here, if you, well, maybe we can zoom in a little bit. Let's see what we can do here for you. Zoom in a little bit. What were we talking about? Okay. Let's Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, right here, right there. Okay. Stuff like this where you can see that there's like a little flap. You can actually get the dies and you can glue that flap down and let that dry. That's what you can do with the dies. But what we're going to do first is lightly sand it down. And what you're doing is you're not trying to sand it down to the bare leather and all this stuff and everything. You just want to sand it down just so it's smooth. That's all you're doing. If you have one rip or one little, cat scratch, you can sort of glue it down. If you have a bunch of them, you don't want to do them each individual separately. You can just do it like this. You can just do all of them all at one shot. So that's what we're going to do here. Let me zoom the camera back out so we can see what we're doing here. It's very difficult to film like that, but we do what we can. Okay, and it already looks great, but the thing is what you're doing here is the black leather dye that's coming off from the sanding is filling in the areas of the scratch. So once we dust that out or clean that out, you're going to see that the scratch is there again, of course. It hasn't gone anywhere. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to clean this up with a dry cloth, and then we're just going to dust it a little bit, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back. We've dusted this away. As you can see that our cat scratches, of course, are back, but they're a lot smoother. So that's what we want. So now we're going to get our black leather dye. We're going to shake it up. Make sure you do a good job shaking it up. Sometimes in shipment or what have you, the dyes can separate. You want to make sure that they're shaken well. Okay, you want to apply it onto the sponge just like that. Alright, so just basically going to wipe the dyes in. What's going to happen is the dyes are going to soak down into the damaged area, and they're going to dry and they're going to cure. But of course, they're not made to actually repair the void of a scratch. So they're going to color in the cat scratches, and a lot of times, it all depends on your situation. If it's in a darker room or something like that and you see these cat scratches, look, if you just go like this, that's going to look beautiful. You're pretty much finished. With the leather dye repair kit, what we do is this area would cure, and then we would apply a sealer, and then you would be finished. But anyways, it all depends on your level of perfection. A lot of times when people just apply the dyes, that's almost good enough. But as you can see here, there still is actual texture damage. So after we put on a couple coats, we're going to actually put the leather repair filler in there. So we're going to first put on a couple coats, and as you can see, this one coat's drying. It's looking a lot newer, but of course it's the exact same color as the chair, because that's what Black A is. It's the exact same color that you would find in your automobile interior. That sometimes it's called graphite black or what have you. Yeah. And the Black B again is just a little bit, you can hardly see the difference, but it's a little bit darker. Okay. So we can just dry that up, or we can let it air dry. As you can see, the temperature inside the shop here is a nice temperature, maybe 75 degrees. And if you're going to put on a thin coat, you can almost watch it dry right in front of your eyes. So that's what we've been doing here. We're going to put one more coat on, then we're going to be back, and I'm going to show you how to apply the filler. Okay, so we're back. We've put a couple coats on here. You have to understand too that the more coats of dye that you see, you can use a little bit for touching up scratches. They look great. Or if you're talking about a car interior, you're getting in and out of the car all the time, you actually want to put maybe 3 or 4 coats on here, because each coat that you put on actually provides that much more protection, because you're putting more of a finish onto the leather. It's basically the same difference between, cars that you just buy off the lot. They have, let's say, 1 or 2 coats of paint applied to the finish. The show cars all have 12, 15, 10 coats of paint and another 10 or 20 coats of clear coat. I mean, that's why they look like show cars. And it's the same thing with your leather. When you apply and build up the dyes in a situation like this, it just gives you that much more protection because your leather is that much more finished and it's that much more protected. So we've applied probably about 3 coats of dye on here, and we've dried it. And then what we've done is we've actually sanded it down. So we've built up the coats of dye, okay? And what you can see is a lot of the cat scratch damage have dissipated just because of the layering of the coats of dye. But if you do have something that's fairly deep, we would always recommend, of course, our leather repair filler. Because if you do have an area that's extremely deep, well, yeah, sure, it's possible to maybe build up 20 or 30 coats of dye, but who wants to do that? You just put on 1 to 2 coats of the filler and then it's built right back up to the surface and then you put your dye on. But anyways, that being said, what we're going to do is now we're going to apply the filler. Now a lot of people ask too, well, does it matter? Do you have to put the filler in like right here over the scratch, or can you do it like what's the deal? There are no mistakes really. All of our products are backwards compatible. That means if you clean it and you apply the dyes, now you can apply the filler if you want. What's the big deal? Even if we were to finish this and put our sealer on top of it, our final top coat, and let's say a week later you said to yourself, oh, look at this one area here, oh, I should have done that. Well, you can do it. All you have to do is just clean the surface with our cleaner, let it dry, apply our filler right over top of our sealer, and then reapply the dyes again. They're all backwards compatible. You can continue to do an even better job. But anyways, that being said, let's get down to business here and let's fill in these small little areas. So there's our filler right there. Going to take our palette knife and you're just going to scoop it out. And it's almost similar to like icing sugar on a cake. And you would just sort of find these areas where the cat scratches were. And can we see that there? Now, again, a lot of people say, oh, don't you need graining papers and this and that and everything? Well, you know what? If you do that, you're going to need a graining paper. You're going to need some kind of help. But you don't do that with our filler. You only put it into the areas where it's required. So it's only going into those areas that have damage, and then you're scraping the rest off, which has texture. So it does a really nice job of blending in. See right here, there's grain there. We're putting the filler in there. We're taking it off. It's only going into the areas where there's a scratch. We're not distorting or getting rid of or covering any filler. So that's the difference between our products and other products. Other products are too thick or too thin or this and that. This is very, very easy to apply. It just goes into the areas required, and then you don't need any graining paper. Now, if you did have a hole in there and you wanted to, put our filler in there, and of course you're going to leave a flat surface, then you could use a graining paper. But I'm not exactly sure if we're going to get to that yet, because sometimes graining papers can be problematic. And until we get to the level where we feel comfortable selling a customer a grain paper along with our filler, well, we'll get to that in the future. But we like to have it where it's top quality supplies, easy application, and more of a permanent fixed solution, and this is what we've done for you. If we're going to recommend a grain paper or something like that, then we will so in the future. But you have to understand, there's a lot of grains in leather, and if we were going to give you 3 grain papers and you put the wrong grain on here, now your eye's going to go to that area where there is no grain. And generally speaking, I mean, we've been in business a long time. When we talk to a customer about a repair, it always wins. Make the repair last. Because a lot of times in leather, you can either make the repair pretty and it won't last, or you can make the repair terrible looking, but it's going to last forever. So you're going to want something in between, a happy medium of sorts. And we've always gotten to the point where we try to do the best repair possible, although it may not be perfect, but we don't do perfect stuff here. Like, we don't profess to be perfect. We try our best, but we don't do anything perfect. anyways, we go in, we do the repair, we try to make it as pretty as possible, but ultimately we don't want the customer coming back. We want to make sure it's a permanent fixed solution, and that's what we do with our products, okay? If we're going to recommend it, it's going to be good to go, but if we're not going to recommend it at this point, I'm not saying it might not happen in the future, but at this point right now, we're just going to do it this way. So as you can see, we're filling in just the cat scratch areas, and you got to sort of hunt them down. There was a bunch of them. And a lot of the dye has sort of fixed that. See, that's what we're doing. We're just putting it into there, and we're just sort of letting it dry. If there's any areas here, you can just sort of like wipe it off and such. So this is very, very thin. So we're just going to let this dry maybe about an hour or something like that, because it's just so thin. If it's thin, it dries fairly quick. You can put a hair dryer on it for 15 minutes or something like that. And again, the way you always test is, you know, to get the leather repair filler, put it on a piece of plastic or something about as thin or about as thick as you have it on your repair, and let that dry and let that cure. When you know this is dry and cure, then you know your work's dry and cure. So we're going to let this dry. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back. The filler's all dried and cured. It looks great. Now basically what you want to do is, if you've applied the filler, really thin skim coat and all the rest of the stuff, and you've cleaned your work up, I mean, there's really no reason to sand or anything. It's just really good and clean. Let's say there is a little bit of pilling or something because you were a little bit sloppy with it or who knows what. I mean, it's usually a person's first time working with these products, and by the time you've used it a second time, you're pretty much an expert anyways. But, you know, you can just, basically, you just want to sand it just to make it a little bit of smooth. So if there was a little bit of pilling in here from a little bit of sloppiness in your work or who knows what, it's no big deal. You're just basically just lightly sanding it down with the same sandpaper. This sandpaper is good stuff. You can wash it off under the sink to clean it up, let it dry, and you can reuse it over and over again. That's what we do. So you just want to sand it down like this just to make it smooth, and I think that's probably what we've done. Then you're going to take your leather cleaning and dusting cloth and just wipe away the dust. And the other thing is, don't throw this thing away. You want to wash it, you can wash it in the washing machine. Just don't put any fabric softener in it. You can reuse it over and over again for years. Okay, so now we've cleaned that all out. Now we're going to go back to the leather dye. Here's our sponge. Here's the dye. We've shaken it up. We're just going to apply a little bit to the surface, and now we're going to apply the dyes over top of the filler. And basically what you're doing is, you know, you're going to be your own judge. You're going to sort of apply these dyes and check it out and look at it and all the rest of the stuff and be happy with it. We're probably going to put maybe 2 coats on here, I'm thinking. And then, because a lot of times if there is a crack, or if there is, I mean, this is just a very thin coat of filler. If you were repairing a rip, let's say, or something like that, and right here is the filler dries white, you're probably going to have to dab on maybe, you know, it depends. All different colors have different characteristics. So with black, you probably need maybe 2 coats of dye to cover that white filler. But with this, you know, very, very thin coat, and, you know, black does do a very good job of covering, you may only need 2 coats of dye over top of the filler. And again, if you want to put the dyes on thicker, we always recommend sort of dabbing them on. If you want to just dab them on like this, you can do that instead of wiping them on. And I'll show you. Just like this. Okay. Some people might think, oh, but look at all the texture patterning you're making from the dye. Well, it's nothing. It's no big deal. The dyes, when they're dry, they're going to soak down into the leather, and they're going to flatten out, and they're going to have a perfect texture. You're not going to see any of that. You know, you got to remember too, with graining papers in general, you're talking about a vinyl repair. Do you know why? Because vinyl is a man-made product, and they basically have only X amount, like let's say A, B, C, D, E, F, of grains that they make vinyl with. So let's say there's only 6 scenarios, or 10 or 50 scenarios of vinyl. You basically match up that grain paper with that vinyl, and you got the perfect sort of grain. But leather, every animal, Every part of the hide is different. This area has more belly wrinkles from the gut of the animal. This area right here doesn't have as many belly wrinkles or as much texture because it's from the spine of the animal. You could have a knife cut. You could have, the animal scratching itself on barbed wire. I mean, this is an animal out in a field. I mean, it's a unique piece of hide, of skin. That's what the beauty of leather is because every piece of leather you buy is always going to be a little bit different than the other one because it's leather. It's a natural product. So how can you possibly really have a grain paper that matches the hide 100%? It's impossible. Unless you create a grain paper and all the rest of the stuff. But I mean, this is vinyl repair, and we're leather specialists. We don't get really involved in vinyl repair, even with our products. I mean, it's good stuff. You can use it on vinyl, but it's really designed for leather. It's optimized and designed for leather. It's made to penetrate and absorb. When you're talking about vinyl, there is no penetration in vinyl because it's a non-porous material. So our dyes would sit on the surface, and you just have to rely upon, topical drying. And it takes a little bit longer for it to dry, and you can use our filler on vinyl and such. But I mean, primarily our products are made for leather, and we kind of want to keep it that way, but you can fix up your vinyl areas or your couch with our products as well. So this right here, we're going to dry this up. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back. We've dried this area up. We put one more coat on it. I think it looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish it with our leather sealer. Okay, this is the final protective top coat. Just basically shake it up, take the cap off, spray it evenly on the sponge, okay, just like that, and wipe it on. It slides pretty easy, goes on really nice, so like that. Whoops. Plug our dryer back in quickly. And we're just going to dry it up. We use heat guns here, but we would recommend that you just use a hair dryer at home. Hair dryer will not burn leather. Okay. Okay, and that's, excuse me, that's pretty much it. Can you hear that? That's the sound of brand new leather. This, of course, is our professional grade leather dye. It comes in a black A. This is our leather repair filler kit, very popular. And this is our leather sealer that comes in the leather dye repair kit. Also, for future maintenance and care, let's say, you refinish your furniture, it looks fantastic, looks like new. What do you do? What do you do? Do you wipe creams, cleaners, and conditioners in it? No, you don't do that. Because this is a protective finish, and whatever soil lays upon it, like, it's slick. You hear that? It's slick. It's not sticky at all. This is a brand new top coat on here. So all the dirt that you're applying on here, you can just basically wipe it off. It's sitting on a top coat. If you start putting on waxes and oils and stuff like that, now it's going to get sticky and it's going to attract more and more dirt. So what we recommend for future care and maintenance, of course, is our large 22-ounce leather cleaner and protection kit. So basically what you would do, and of course you get the cloth in there and you get applicator sponges and of course instructions and everything. What you would do is from now on you would basically clean your leather furniture every 3 to 4 weeks, and the way you would do that is what we discussed at the at the beginning of the video, you would get your cloth, you would spray the cleaner on the cloth, and you're basically just going to sort of do this. You're just going to wet dust your furniture. This is going to be wet with the cleaner, and you're just going to gently wet dust the furniture. And what happens is the fingers from the cloth just go inside the grain everywhere and pull the dirt up into the cloth, okay? Then you let it dry, you're good to go. Now, every, let's say, 8 to 12 months, through sitting on your leather, with your denim or jeans are abrasive to leather to a certain degree. So through friction and wear over the course of 8 to 12 months, you're going to be wearing off a little bit of this protective top coat. That's just the way it is. So here is our leather protector that you would basically spray just like the sealer onto a new sponge and wipe in a new protector every 8 to 12 months, of course, depending on use. People who live alone or something like that can do it every 12 months. People that have dogs and children and people jumping on couches and everything, you're going to want to apply it every 8 months. And if you do that, you're going to be left with a very good-looking couch for a long time. I mean, we get friends coming over to our house, and I mean, our furniture we bought probably 14 years ago, and it's black leather furniture, and every time they come over, at least some of these friends that come over every 3 or 4 years, they think that we have new furniture. We don't have new furniture. We just basically maintain it with this. So again, this is our cleaning and protection kit. You can find this online and many more products at leathertouchupdye.com.
To order this and many other fine leather products, go to leathertouchupdye.com.